Go ahead, guys.
All right. I think we're on the air. Hi, everybody. This is Rosen, philosopher, author, health consultant, and facilitator of the evolutionary unfoldment of human potential. Welcoming you to another segment of the United We Evolve portion of the United We Strike Marathon. We're going to talk about something today. We want to talk about cannabis, marijuana. Something that amazes me that should it be legal? We're not going to get into that. That's such an obvious question. But thousands, millions of people around the world, hundreds of millions have used it. It's been recorded by various practitioners of the healing arts throughout the development of civilization, of culture. Its properties have been noted, not quite understood, but noted. And yet nobody ever talks about exactly what is going on when you ingest both the endocannabinoid part of the marijuana and the THC, the psychoactive part. So today we wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit. So for those free-thinking individuals who want to follow in the tradition of those who declare their intention to activate their endowed rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, how can marijuana fit in with that? How can it be intelligently used as an adjunct to help facilitate human potential? In one way or another, everybody, according to their idiosyncrasies, their disposition, their inclinations, and the shaping influences of their social and cultural orientations, is looking for those things, circumstances, and or substances that they want to believe will somehow enhance the quality of their life. I would remind you that anything, even the most positive and necessary things that sustain our existence, such as food, can be misused and abused and have detrimental results. Lyrically, Bob Dylan once proclaimed in a refrain, "I would not feel so all alone. Everybody must get stoned." Well, what is it to be stoned? That's a kind of an idiomatic vernacular. What do we mean by getting stoned? Most people just say, "I want to get high." What do we mean by getting high? When you get high, you extend beyond and above what you've come to accept as what's normal or average. Then lyrically, Jimi Hendrix came along and sort of upgraded that. No, not necessarily stoned, but beautiful. So, high, stoned, beautiful. What's that got to do with marijuana? What is marijuana? This is what we want to look at today, and we want to do it in keeping with the two basic approaches to health. The first approach to health, whatever you're trying to implement to achieve it, is to get away from a problem. You have an imbalance causing stagnation, inflammation, degeneration, deterioration. That's pain. It's immobility. You want to find some way of ameliorating that, getting away from it, hopefully at least correcting the imbalance. The other half of the approach to health, the far more interesting one, is just how good can you feel? How safely and effectively can you upgrade the quality of your life? Now, keeping all that in mind, marijuana has two components to it. There, as was previously stated on the show before us, the one part of it is the endocannabinoids. And it's only in the past, a little less than the past 2 decades, that they've started to isolate and started to notice that there are hundreds of these endocannabinoids that are in marijuana or in hemp. It doesn't have to be in marijuana. And that the body is literally laced. The nervous system, the bones, the nerve cells, the brain is loaded with them. They're in the heart, the liver, with these endocannabinoid receptors. This is something that's been naturally engineered in. The job of the body on the physical level is to maintain its survivability, its functionality for reproduction of the species. So by natural design, the body is literally laced with these endocannabinoid receptors. Now, as was mentioned, you can just get a high-quality hemp oil that has no THC, and you can use that to what? Start to key in these endocannabinoid receptors by naturally providing them with a substance that allows them to function, to operate more gracefully, more succinctly. What do? They basically, they work with pain management. They assist in working through blockages and balancing out neurological metabolic processes. In other words, if you are overly wound up, you've stressed your body, and stress on a physical level means you don't have enough energy to keep up with your output. You've been going and going. You've been emoting all over the place. You've been worrying about this, dealing with that. You haven't possibly or probably taken in the right nutrients to compensate for your output. It's an input-output sort of thing. The amount of energy you're using up, physically, emotionally, mentally, is proportionate to what you're supplying the body. Then you can maintain a balance, no matter how fast you're going. That is, if you are in balance to begin with. If not, something has to pay for that expenditure of energy. And inadvertently, if we're not giving the body what it needs, and there's a lot of things it needs, then we will rob from one organ or gland or tissue system to feed the demands of our will, to this idea of who we are and how life has to be and what we have to do to maintain it. That overextends us. The sympathetic nervous system becomes wound up too tight, responding to our will. We become like a wire that's pulled so tight that it can't unwind. You keep getting this high staticky sound inside. And the parasympathetic system, which usually gets exhausted because it doesn't have the time or the means to keep up with our modern day output, becomes wound down. The body becomes slacker, the mind becomes tighter. And all of a sudden, when you have these cannabinoids coming in and keying in these endocannabinoid receptors, one of the things it's been shown to do, and as I said, there's literally hundreds of them, they key in different ways, is they start to equalize the firing in the brain and the nervous system. So this overly wound up mechanism in your system starts to cool, starts to chill out. It doesn't affect your consciousness in terms of changing it. We'll get to that in a minute. But it does help the nervous system regain some of its equilibrium. Same thing is true there, as I said, they're laced throughout your body with pain control. You can be and pain is always an inflammation caused by a buildup of toxins. In other words, something has interfered with the flow, and you're getting stagnancy, which is causing degeneration. So this keys in the endocannabinoids that work to cool out the pain in the body because the nerves are again overfiring. When the harder you pull, the tighter the noose gets. So if you keep trying to overcompensate, you just wind up more deeply. The endocannabinoids will help balance you out a bit. Then we want to talk about the THC content. And believe me, we would like to get into all of this with great explanation and depth, but we're just introducing it today because the time only permits that. But before I go on, Dean, please jump in and take us away a bit.
Thank you again, Ann, and it's good to hear your voice. I, Dean Lloyd, practitioner, author, inventor, radio show host, and professor, have been...
Sorry, Dean, can I just say your volume is very low there. Is there any way you can get closer to the mic?
Okay. Is that any better?
That's much better, yeah.
Okay, perfect. As it turns out, I'm in travels. I'm going to be teaching starting tomorrow, and I'm going to be catching a plane in a couple hours. One of the nice things about our library system is that they offer you private rooms if you call in ahead of time. So I was able to get this room. But now that you can hear me, I'll start over. My name, Dean Lloyd. I'm a practitioner, author, inventor. I'm a radio show host, and I'm a professor. And I have been using the CBDs part in my practice for many years, these are, as Am was mentioning, the endocannabinoids that are in our tissues, they're in our organs, and the ways that people have been looking at using these substances, the substances of endocannabinoids, have been very wide range. Most of it has been in pain management, as Am had mentioned, and the problems that people have been having with the medications that they've been using, they wanted to get off of these medications, and very often the CBDs or the endocannabinoids can be used to help facilitate their body moving through pain. Now, it's individual application with healing. As Am and I talk about in our radio shows, we try to bring to the awareness of the public the usefulness of a variety of different tools, and this being one very powerful one. You find that the body doesn't have the side effects, and it's a huge draw for people that are now realizing, because I do live in a legal state of Colorado, and people are moving here. They're literally coming here, even with children. And we did a show a couple of weeks ago, Am and I, with a friend of mine who has his own dispensary in Colorado. His name's Charlie Stewart, and he was able to tell us how children that had been using these CBDs successfully for things like seizures or pain, the parents had moved to Colorado for that very purpose. And anything can be abused, and very often people are not given the education that's required for using such a powerful tool as this. In other words, our medical profession doesn't typically tell you, unless you listen to the commercials, of what the side effects are. Could cause dizziness, vomiting, insomnia, depression, death. It's pretty amazing that these things go on, although even that list could be a limited one as far as side effects go. What we're trying to do is give the public an insight into our perspective, because both Am and I have been using a variety of different nutritional supplements for detoxification, herbal programs for managing, we mentioned pain earlier with the CBDs, but what we are trying to use this tool, CBDs or the THC, which Am is going to bring up in a moment, as a way of facilitating your progress, your way you can move through either a space that you are getting away from pain or getting away from illness. And if it's appropriately used, it can be very good at balancing out. It has an adaptogenic property to it that's very unique. And if you do get the CBD separate from the THC, then you don't get the psychoactive effects in it. So it can be appealing for a lot of people that are trying to get past a stage of their painful cycle or a problem with sleeping because of their wound up state. Exhaustion is a big problem in our culture. Our nutrition has been, in basis of our food source is nutritionally depleted, so we have to support that part of our system. So what I'm going to do is just hand it back over to Am to talk about the THC component and bring us up to date on it.
Oh, thank you, Dean. All right. Let's see if we can help Bob out with his not feeling so alone. Everybody must get stoned. What does that mean? Now, in old biblical terms, if you wanted to punish somebody because they committed a travesty against the ideas or regulations of the particular tribe or society, you might stone them. That was getting a bunch of stones and throwing them at them until you painfully put them to death. I don't think that's what he meant, though. As a matter of fact, I know it's not what he meant. Normally, we're on this treadmill of activity. Okay, and as, again, for some people, I certainly don't want this for children, for infants, for people who can't handle it. But as part of our ability to move and explore our own potential, our own fulfillment, we want things that are safe, that can help us. We're on this treadmill of activity. We're left brain. I did this then, and gee, I've got to meet this person there. Suppose I don't get that done. I got to pay this bill. I haven't got enough of this. She doesn't like me. He doesn't do this for me. We're always telling ourselves a story and inadvertently emotionally masturbating old associative feelings, and without realizing it, because the body takes our emotions seriously even when there's nothing going on, getting the body all worked up and predisposing tissue disposition, all of which can create problems. Now, the psychoactive component in marijuana is THC. And one of the things it does is it puts you in it's a right brain activator. The left brain is sequential. It's where we use ideas, thoughts, symbols to contemplate, try to leverage our awareness into a relationship of form and function about ourselves and about the world we think we're a part of. But when we're doing that, we're not paying attention. We're so busy thinking about what was and rearranging that into what possibly could be and getting all emotionally worked up that we miss out on a lot. Well, that's left brain. Now, when you move into the right brain, it's like taking a big, relaxing, pleasurable sigh. Because all of a sudden you come out of this left brain, time-oriented thing. It was then, and it might be there, and you come into the moment. It's a right brain activator. It makes you feel spaced. It stones you in the sense that you are no longer caring about all of that for the moment. You are actually seeing, wow, here I am. Wow, look how this looks. That's all around you all the time, but we normally don't pay attention. We're so busy almost automatically, I shouldn't say almost, most people are automatically overriding their immediate perception with this litany of do's and don'ts and whys and wherefores and the rest of it. So it's a right brain activator. Now, one of the ways we record from the mental level, the self-conscious level, is through a stimulus to response ratio. Everything that enters our field of awareness stimulates our awareness, or we wouldn't pay any attention to it. Now, we have a ratio of response. Once learning to walk was a big deal. Standing up, gaining inner ear equilibrium, spatial relation, muscular control. Now we just walk. And we form feelings about that, which we turn into emotional patterns as the walking takes us through our culture, our society. When you first see something that's new, you try to relate it to this idea you have about yourself and things. And we have a stimulus to response ratio. Now, let's say you went out and you wanted to buy a piece of furniture, and you were walking in a little store, and this craftsman had put together a table. It was the most beautiful table you've ever seen. It was just be perfect for the space you had in mind in your home. The way, the materials, the workmanship, the way it looked, the size, the shape, everything. You love this table. You bought it. You took it home. And for the next couple of days, you couldn't walk by the room without checking it out. You changed the position. You put things on top of it. You ate on it, maybe made love under it or on top of it. You did everything you could with the table. And all of a sudden, all the stimulus that this table could elicit to your consciousness has been responded to. You have a ratio of response. The table's there, it's great, but you no longer pay attention to it because you're busy, you're off in your mind. Now, let's say you were to ingest some psychoactive marijuana. Well, all of a sudden, you're in a right brain space. You're in the space of the moment, and you're looking at the table, you're going, God, this was a great buy. This is such I'm so happy I have this. Oh, the workmanship, and you're rubbing your finger. All of a sudden, you're fascinated by this piece of furniture. Why? The stimulus that this table could elicit hasn't changed one iota. But the ratio of response that you normally have in a certain state of mind has now been augmented. You are getting the same stimulus, but the ratio of how you respond to it is changed in your mind. It suddenly opens up a new category. Now, if you were to stay in this altered state, right brain space, long enough, eventually you'd have a second category, ratio of response to the table, both normally and when you're right brain activated through the marijuana. And then it wouldn't mean the same to you. So understanding that you can space out of all this treadmill of busyness, of worry, of determination, and just go, it's like walking in the woods, a real woods, not a park, where everything is still natural and everything is in harmony. And if you stay there long enough, you start to feel that. You start to absorb yourself. You could enhance that. You can enhance a lot of things by helping yourself come into the right brain space. Notice that the endocannabinoids are stabilizing the firing of your nerve cells. They're cutting down pain. They're letting you feel more loose, more mobile. Now, what are you going to do with it? Where are you going to go? You can space out and feel, wow, I am stoned into the moment. This is where I am. You can also, from that, with a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of skill and intelligent technique, learn to space in. If you're not operating on this normal treadmill of activity, what does this open up for you? If you can cool out the pain receptors in your body and get more flexibility, you can space into the body if you know how to. Not as an imaginary exercise, wow, imagine that, but it's real body, real heartbeat, real blood flows, real nerve flows, real meridian flows. You can learn to access and start to work with these things, take them out of the subconscious reflex place and start to augment them, which is part of our evolution. You can space into states of mind. Artists, musicians, scientists, creative thinkers have found this very helpful when they need to break ranks for a moment and let themselves catch up with themselves. You can use these as techniques not only to get away from what doesn't feel comfortable, the tension, the treadmill, but to open up to and become more competent in handling spaces that are available to you. And there's a lot of disciplines throughout cultures. Most of them are biofeedback systems and yoga and Taoism, and they're beautiful, elegant. Unfortunately, there's usually a toll booth bureaucracy built up around them. Just a few thoughts. We'd love to go on and make this more specific, but Dean, let me give you a chance to jump in again.
Excellent. And you mentioned the creativity side. Louis Armstrong, one of the jazz musicians in American culture, was using cannabis in a way where he was using it before he played, and it opened his mind. It relaxed him. It allowed him to be more expressive with his instrument, and he said so. And this actually led to one very popular part of jazz music, in that the lead selective lead riffs that were done by Louis Armstrong started to catch on, and he became a master at it. Just wonderfully, applied use of the cannabis in this way. Other artists if you look into our history, we've had this around since the 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s, and so on. But what Am is making a point of is a clarification and understanding what it means to be in the moment and right brain. Now, we have a whole lot to say in this. Unfortunately, we're at the end of the show already. But I wanted to give out our websites and also our radio shows, so those of you that are interested in these and many topics, not only about health, but the whole point of why are we even considering these different things. We bring into the fold nutrition, detoxification. We just did a show on chanting with Evolving the Species on the Genesis Communications Network, and how this relates to consciousness. And how we get healthy is about becoming aware of what we're doing consciously, and what it is that's been keeping us held back. What are the emotional drag lines? How do we break free of this? And this is why we do the show. We make available these tools. So my website is www.accutone.com, and our radio shows are the Evolving the Species series in the Genesis Communications Network on the Uncommon Awareness, and we also do on the Wolf Spirit Radio, State of Mind, Quality of Life. You can get the archives or listen to the first Friday of every month at 8 p.m. Mountain Time.
Great stuff.
Please.
That's brilliant, gentlemen. Go ahead,
Excellent.
If you want to finish, there's anything else you want to say there?
All right, just let me give out my website. It's www.lifegame.com. A lot of interesting things on there for you to peruse. Love to hear from you. Questions. There's so much more we wanted to tell you about what actually happens and how to really handle the changes you go through so you can enjoy more, get more out of it, and more intelligently employ what marijuana and the endocannabinoids basically offer you. But hopefully we've given you an idea that there's much more than just wow. So anyway, we hope to hear from you, and thank you for allowing us to share with you.
Brilliant. Well, I think I'm going to get you two chaps on OIM in Ireland, because this subject matter is a very hot topic at the moment, and I got into a very big debate over the dangers of smoking marijuana, especially people who get addicted to it. But we can't talk about it now because we're running out of time. But definitely, I'll be in touch with you, and Dean.
Oh, love to share with the good people in your territory. Yes,
that'd be brilliant, and it would just shed a new light on the information, and probably kind of wake up a few people about, it's not as bad as they think it is if it's done properly. But okay, well listen, we just reached the end. This is United We Strike, April 12, 2014. That was Am and Dane. Thanks a lot, chaps, for coming on. We're going to now pass it over to Gary. This is my bit done over in Ireland, so slán that to everybody listening, and we'll pass off to Gary. And have a good day, have a good marathon, and we'll catch you later. Bye bye.